So let's pick back up, right where the heart of this whole experience really comes alive. The relationship you build with your micro orchard. It's strange to say this, but fruit trees have personality. Every single one. Some are eager growers that shoot up quickly as if they've been waiting their whole lives for a patch of sunlight. Others take their time, moving slowly, stretching gently, acting like they're savoring every step of their own growth. Some are stubborn, some are dramatic, some are forgiving. And every single one of them teaches you something about patience, about care, and about paying attention to the little details that end up making the biggest difference. What surprises most beginners is how much a tree seems to listen. When you guide a branch, it responds. When you prune a tip, it redirects. When you give it good soil, it thanks you with new growth. These are small gestures, but they add up to something powerful. Because fruit trees are living things that actively cooperate with their gardeners. They don't fight you, they don't resist you, they simply need a bit of understanding. And that's one of the reasons micro-orchard gardening becomes addictive. You feel connected in a way that's hard to explain. There's a quiet moment that every small space gardener experiences. It doesn't happen right away. It happens after weeks of watering, shaping, checking the leaves, watching the seasons shift. One morning, you walk outside and you see the very first sign that your tree is ready. Maybe it's a tiny bud that wasn't there the day before. Maybe it's a cluster of little green fruit that suddenly appeared overnight. Or maybe it's just the shape of the tree finally settling into that wide, open form you've been guiding it toward. And that moment hits you. It tells you you're doing it. It's working. I wish every new gardener could feel that moment sooner, because it changes the entire way you see your space. But of course, the journey isn't perfect. Gardening never is. Some days you'll walk outside and think the leaves look too pale. Other days you'll panic because the soil dried out faster than you expected. Sometimes a tree will surprise you by growing in a direction you didn't plan for. And there will be times when you wonder if you're doing enough, or if you're doing too much, or if the tree secretly wishes it had a more experienced gardener. But that's the beauty of it. Trees are not judging you. They're growing with you. Even the mistakes become lessons. If you water too much and the leaves droop, the tree will bounce back once you correct it. If you prune a little too boldly, new shoots will grow. Fruit trees have an incredible ability to recover because they've survived storms, winds, seasons, insects, and droughts long before humans ever decided to plant them in pots. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to learn. Your micro-orchard isn't fragile, it's adaptable. And speaking of adaptable, people are always shocked by how much fruit a small tree can produce. They look at a container about the size of a laundry basket and assume it could only hold a plant that gives 1 or 2 fruits a year. But once that tree learns its shape, once you've trained it with gentle bending and small cuts, that tree becomes focused. It starts producing fruiting wood instead of endless tall shoots. You'll see branches covered with flower buds, and you'll start realizing that size has absolutely nothing to do with abundance. A small tree with a well-lit canopy can sometimes outperform a tall, untrained tree that wastes half its energy growing in the wrong direction. There's something deeply satisfying about watching fruit ripen on a tree you shaped with your own hands. You'll find yourself checking on it more often than you planned. You'll start noticing the color shifts that signal ripeness. You'll learn how peaches soften just slightly before they're ready, or how figs swell with sweetness in the last few days, or how citrus fruits hold their scent even before you touch them. And the first fruit you pick will feel like a reward, not just for the tree, but for your patience. A micro-orchard also teaches you that abundance isn't always about quantity. Sometimes it's about the experience. Imagine waking up in the morning, stepping outside, and seeing a bowl's worth of fruit waiting for you. You don't need crates, you don't need baskets, you need just your hands. And every fruit tastes sweeter because it came from a tree living in the same space you live in, sharing the same sunlight you wake up to every day. Another beautiful part of micro-orchard gardening is how it changes the space around you. A balcony that once felt bare becomes alive. A corner that once felt empty becomes intentional. Even a tiny walkway becomes a little ecosystem buzzing with life. Bees visiting blossoms, ladybugs settling on leaves, small birds hopping around branches. Fruit trees bring a softness to small spaces that nothing else can, and before long, your little corner starts attracting attention. Friends and neighbors will ask questions, visitors will be surprised at what you're growing in such a compact area. Some will even want to start their own orchards because yours inspired them. Gardening has a way of spreading from person to person like that. Micro-orchards also shift your relationship with time. Instead of rushing, you begin paying attention to seasons. When the tree wakes up in spring, when it pushes out new leaves, when blossoms appear, when fruit forms, and when everything slowly settles down in autumn. Before you know it, you learn the natural rhythm without forcing it. You learn when to water less, when to feed more, when to trim lightly, and when to simply let the tree rest. That kind of awareness doesn't just make you a better gardener, it makes you calmer, more observant, more grounded. But let's talk about something else too, the reality of small space mistakes, because everyone makes them. And I mean everyone. Overwatering is usually the first. We get excited, we think water equals love, and we overdo it. The tree forgives you as long as you correct it. Planting in containers without drainage is another classic mistake. But once you understand why drainage matters, because roots need air, the mistake becomes one you only make once. And then there's the sunlight problem. Sometimes people place their trees in a spot that only gets morning light, or behind a wall that creates too much shade. But trees are patient. Move them to a brighter spot and watch how fast they respond. They stretch out, they brighten up, they reward you. One of the most common mistakes, though, is letting the tree grow tall too quickly. Everyone gets excited and thinks, wow, look at it growing. But growth doesn't always mean progress. A tree that shoots up too fast often delays fruiting. That's why shaping young trees is so powerful. It guides the tree to focus on the parts that matter. When you gently bend a branch outward, you're telling the tree to focus on that branch as a fruit branch. When you prune the tip of a tall shoot, you're telling the tree to slow upward growth and spread out instead. These tiny adjustments lead to big results. And if you're worried about pruning, don't be. A well-timed small trim is more effective than a big one later. Think of it like teaching a child good habits early on. It's easier than trying to correct them years later. A little guidance now prevents a lot of work later. And trees forgive early mistakes. If you trim a little too much, new growth will appear. If you miss a season, the tree keeps going. You're not trying to control the tree, you're partnering with it. One thing that surprises people is how emotional micro-orcharding becomes. These trees become part of your routine. You check on them when you're tired, you water them when your mind is full, you find comfort in their slow, predictable growth. And on days when life feels overwhelming, there's something grounding about walking outside and seeing your trees continuing to grow no matter what. They remind you that growth can be slow, that progress doesn't have to be loud, that fruit takes time, and that good things usually happen quietly, one day at a time. And then comes the moment you'll never forget, the day your tree gives you your first harvest. You take that fruit in your hand and you feel its weight. You see the color, you smell the sweetness, and when you taste it, it hits you differently. It doesn't taste like store fruit. It tastes like sunlight. It tastes like your effort. It tastes like something you created with your own hands in your own space, no matter how small that space is. That moment is why micro-orchards matter. It's why small space gardening is so powerful, because it proves that abundance doesn't depend on land or money or perfect conditions. It depends on care, it depends on intention, it depends on you choosing to plant something, nurture it, and let it grow into something meaningful. Your micro-orchard won't just feed you fruit, it will feed you confidence. It will teach you patience. It will turn your small space into a sanctuary. It will remind you every day that even in a crowded city, even in a tiny home, even in a life that feels busy and complicated, you can grow something beautiful, something edible, something that brings joy. And the best part? Once you grow one fruit tree successfully, you'll realize you can grow more. Your mindset changes. You stop seeing your space as limited. You start seeing it as full of potential. Maybe you add a citrus tree next, maybe a peach tree, maybe something colorful like a pomegranate.